Why is Disney stock tanking? Well, this is a question that I haven't been able to stop thinking about for several weeks now, along with the idea that there's just so many reasons for Disney's struggles and why they will keep doing the limbo under any kind of expectation. So let's gather around the campfire, folks, because this is going to be another culture story time. Here we go. Okay, Grant, let's not bury the lead here.
Kind of buried the lead there, Summer.
Starting with each of the reasons things are really starting to collapse, and here's the first one. There is intense streaming competition. When things started out, the streaming platforms were like a magical online video store. For a few bucks a month, you could unlock a treasure trove of movies and television shows, but then every Tom, Dick, and Harry decided that they wanted to jump in on the streaming thing. So you ended up with like Max, and you ended up with Paramount Plus or CBS All Access or whatever it was originally. And suddenly, with all of that and the licensing required, these beloved classics or anything from any of these studios became, well, the most expensive thing ever. So Netflix was originally a very welcome partner before everybody expanded into streaming. They licensed so much content from everyone, especially Disney, they actually could make package deals. They made it look, well, easy. But everybody, well, conveniently forgot that it took over a decade for them to get profitable in the first place. Building up like that with all the competition and the bottleneck on the production side, yeah, that's not going to happen that way anymore. And it's not going to happen anytime soon. Now, Disney Plus specifically, and, well, some other streamers as well, are great if you're in the mood for a, well, Disney marathon. But if you fancy a bit of variety, well, good luck trying to get that, because you're stuck in a walled garden that is more curated than ever. And it's not offering up that entire library that you expected or were promised way back when, well, Uncle Bob Iger, the weatherman, announced the service in the first place. And the sheer number of streaming services out there is contributing to this problem as well. People are drowning in choices, and Disney Plus might be one of the services who showed up a little too late and with not a lot to offer. Plus, content acquisition is a new problem that none of these content providers ever bothered to plan for. Now, let's move on to non-traditional media platforms. Disney not only has to wrestle with streaming giants, but they also have got this new kid on the block, the non-traditional media platforms such as where you're watching me right now. And YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, Odyssey, I could keep going. Yeah, they've mastered the art of short form addictive content. Like, well, they're serving up like snacks, and Disney's like cooking a 5-course meal, and it's incredibly expensive, but we'll get to that. The best part of these new non-studio media platforms is that the content creators that are putting all this together, they're not spending an arm and a leg. They don't need fancy actors. They don't need any of the other stuff that goes along with this. They just need a camera and a halfway decent microphone, and in my case, an editor that makes me look better every time. It's just regular folks that are creating content for you every day. And you don't need a PhD here to understand what's really going on. There's also longer form content, music, podcasts, and shows. The variety on YouTube and similar, it's pretty endless. And these platforms aren't just stealing viewers. They're snatching up the advertising dollars too. And all that spare change in advertising money that was flowing into the creator-based spaces like this one are leaving Disney, who are basically in the position where they're trying to collect on its IOUs with no quality original material or content to offer in the future. Next up, or reason number 3 or 4, I'm going to lose count. There's a lot of them. But next up is the rising costs of making stuff. And that's just what's happening. The cost of making shows is skyrocketing for all of these studios. It's ridiculous. You've heard reports of $250 million for a 6 to 8 episode series. That's not an effective use of your money, especially when you're not turning a profit. And what's worse is that this was all born from some of their own stupid ideologies surrounding some manipulative agendas. And we're going to avoid talking about that for now. And let me tell you, those could be rectified in a second if they wanted to change them. But it would still leave Disney and many of these other streamers shelling out millions of dollars per episode for things like Marvel television shows or Star Wars TV shows or whatever. The biggest problem is with all of these things and with all of that, the money that's required, well, they have nothing to show for what they've spent. Now, compounding that, they're not just burning cash in streaming. Even their traditional TV networks are feeling the pinch. That's right. They had to pass on the rights to stream an Indian cricket league because it cost as much as building a small moon. And okay, that is a bit hyperbolic, and I'll do that when I'm trying to prove a point. Disney is spread too thin right now. They don't have enough supporting structural elements to keep everything, well, standing. All the expenses mean one thing here. Disney might have to jack up its subscription prices once again, and they just did it. But in a world where every penny counts now, they risk sending more subscribers packing, and their churn rate is about to ramp up even more without it. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. They're stuck in a game of financial Jenga. That's probably a great way to say that. They're trying to pull out pieces without letting that tower crumble. Again, poor structure, poor infrastructure, all of those things. Now, we have to talk about something that's just, well, popped into everybody's line of sight. Cable TV's slow decline. And it's not slow anymore. It's pretty darn fast. There was a time, if you remember, when cable TV was king, and cable and satellite, and it's more like the court jester right now. People are cutting the cord and fleeing to streaming services, kind of. Not that everyone that leaves a cable system is signing up for 6 streaming platforms, so it's not a one-for-one customer situation. Most people only really want one, and most of those had Netflix. So by walling up the garden, fewer people will pay to walk in. And guess what? Even with all the cable cutting, or maybe in spite of it, Disney's biggest moneymaker right now in media is still cable television. With fewer people now tuning in, and obviously, advertisers not really excited about what the prospects are for future shows, the money tap's getting a bit dry. And there are fewer and fewer things to deliver. Advertisers don't want to pay a full ride price. The cable services like Charter Spectrum are ready to throw in the towel over carriage-esque deals. And Disney could lose even more, even faster in terms of market share. What we just witnessed was one weekend without college football, the first major weekend, and that was bad enough. Imagine an entire market of 12 million people lost for an entire season, or possibly forever. Now, we need to look at things from a different point of view. We need to talk about some industry catalysts, right? I'm trying to break this down like a financial person. These are going to make things even more exciting, so to speak. Demand for streaming might have just hit an all-time plateau. And I've been saying this for quite some time now, a long, long while. The industry has reached a state of maturity. Growth is going to be a fantasy in the future, at least explosive growth. And to put it another way, a string of overpriced niche buffets has the audiences starting to, well, look for an opportunity to diet. And they're going to cinch up that belt. So let's face it, with economic uncertainty lurking around, well, the corner, or maybe it's already upon us, folks were already starting to tighten their belts. That would include me. And this will definitely hit Disney in their theme park feels. It's going to hit even harder and have further impact. Also, well, dropping their profitability even more. Let's also not forget that the regulatory boogeyman is out there, and Disney's got to dance around antitrust concerns, intellectual property rights, all sorts of legal hurdles on top of those. There's actually some alleged criminal acts potentially, and a regular pattern of investor queries and lawsuits. And that's leading to a huge investment right now in crisis PR teams at a time when all things need to look like everything is rosy. And finally, let's get to the real meat of things, the numbers, because analysts are starting to come to a realistic view of Disney. People are saying that the real market value has diminished. Liabilities have the potential to explode their debt. And a small example of that's going to be Hulu. That's going to be costly. And it's a have-to moment because they have to do it. It can't be escaped from. And now I'm going to give you a standard disclaimer. I'm not a financial professional. Therefore, take what I say here as a layman's words and consult an expert when making decisions about any investment that you make. Understood? Excellent. Now back to these industry analysts. You see, they're pinning where current stock value should be for Disney. And it's around $73 a share. That leaves the recent drop in share still not in line with what the company is worth in their eyes. The stock is, like, even at depressed levels, not worth the price, even with a 1-year target price that's a pipe dream. What the buy point really might be is 72. Yikes. So for me, at this point, that's it. It turns out that Disney's most intense thrill ride isn't a roller coaster. It's actually wrangling with all these many factors to try to recover from 8 years of bad decisions from current leadership that has been spanning across things such as acquisitions, politics, the corporate culture destruction, loss of vision. I think it's going to take more than some pixie dust and a magic wand to turn things around. But what do you think? I'd like you to use the comment section down below and let me know. This one is going to hit hard. And look, this could end up being a daily thing or an every other day thing where all I'm talking about is dismal Disney, kind of like Clownfish and others, because there's not a lot of rosy in their future. Until next time, see ya!